I'm joined now by another two members of the cast. Would you please introduce yourselves and say a bit about your character in the play?
My name is Simon Darwen. I'm playing Slim, what's known as a jerk line skinner. He's kind of in charge on the ranch and looks after the horses, and he becomes an ally and a confidant to George and Lenny in the play.
Hi, I'm Lee Ravitz. I'm playing Candy. Candy was a shepherd in his youth, and he has now become elderly and disabled and reduced to swabbing out the bunkhouses. But George and Lenny imbue him with their dreams of living in a small holding of their own.
Thank you. First question, what was there something that resonated with you about the character, or just more general, what prompted you to take the role of this character?
My important thing is I have multiple sclerosis, and it's a progressive disease. It's been developing in the past few years. I've been an actor for 20 odd years, but this was an opportunity to play a part which incorporates the idea of someone who has experienced a sudden sort of turn of events, of circumstances that have forced him to become something else and to adapt to them. So that was what I was keen to explore, and that is interesting to see how I can do the part as a disabled person, really.
Amazing, yeah.
What was it? So, what was it? What attracted me to the part? What
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a great part. Yeah, it's one of those ones that I've always wanted to play.
Yeah.
And whenever anybody, well, first of all, I'm 6'4", so whenever
Wow.
I have a conversation with anybody about I'm doing Of Mice and Men, the first thing they say is, "Well, you must be playing Lenny," and I'm like, "Well, no, the guy's even bigger than me." But then I say, I'm playing Slim, and everyone's, "Oh yeah, Slim. That's a really he's a really sound guy. There's a lot of heart to him." But yeah, it's one of the great parts, and to even go in and just read for a part like that in an audition in itself is a treat. But to do it in this amazing building was a no-brainer with the cast around me. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like yourself in your character?
Oh, that's a really good question,
Like, do
Kev.
you feel your charisma coming out, or?
Yeah, like I feel like there is a part of, there's always us. There's always the actor in the character that they're playing. There always is. There is always going to be. But did you say charisma? Yeah. I feel like I can understand him. I can understand elements of him in terms of his personality, his privacy, and we in rehearsal. You effectively, a lot of it can be given to you from the text, but a lot of it you have to bring, just from your own experiences. Our director's always sort of talking to us about bringing our own experiences into our characters, and I feel like I've definitely, the minute I read it for the first time this week with all the other actors, I definitely felt an affinity. I don't know if you feel that way, Lee, about Candy as well.
Yeah, Candy is very definitely, there are similarities in our experience. I think he's written as an elderly character, so probably most actors who portray him are older than I am. I'm only sort of in my late 40s. But what I find is interesting about it is this parallel between this idea that he was able to work and now he has been reduced to a state where it's actually very hard to do that. So that's the interesting thing to explore for me.
I've been wanting to know how old you were.
Well, yeah.
I've been curious all week.
Next question would be, what techniques have you or do you or have you used in the past to make your character? I know we said a bit about, a bit of yourself in there, but what other techniques do you use to really bring that character to life?
That's another really good question. Yeah, techniques. So I suppose, we're in our first week of rehearsal, and we've had a couple of brilliant movement sessions. With our movement director Yarit has come in and done these phenomenal half-day sessions with us, and I think all of us straight away start to think about how do we relate movement to character. And we were just doing an exercise where we sort of put together some kind of set in the rehearsal room, chairs, tables, things like that, and just these men work all day, 6 days a week in incredible heat, and just sitting after a long day, just sitting in the bunkhouse, and I was really starting to play around with weight and stretching and what it's like after a long day. And again, I think I draw on size quite a lot, but there's just been, and it's a different way of working for me. I don't normally work this way, but because it's such a physical play in terms of what they do for a living, I've found a lot in terms of the recovery and how much it costs you to work so hard and then only have a few hours of an evening in which to kind of bring yourself down and try and find some peace and some space. So I've found that this week has been really useful. And then as we go on, I'll just add on different layers. But I actually find if we talk about technique, I like to use I'm a Meisner fan, and Meisner is very much about the page, what's on the page and what's going on between the two people in the scene. So we sort of get away from a lot of the bigger issues that may be at stake and just focus on the here and this and now. And I've got some fantastic scenes with Tom, who plays George, where you get a real opportunity to kind of just have that back and forth.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I find it very interesting. I mean, everyone has a slightly different technique that is personal to them. I think that is important if it's not a particularly accurate answer to the question, but to recognize, because the most important thing is to find whatever works for you, I think. We've done a couple of things that are useful for sparking my imagination. I'm always inspired by hearing music, and we've heard some music, and that's given me character ideas. I enjoy visual imagery. I enjoy looking at photos that get me into the mindset, and as you can probably see, I actually quite like costuming or bits and pieces which help me characterize as well. So this is all of the thing. I've done quite a lot of screen work, and what I find interesting about screen work is you can't really build it up. Every scene has to be kind of for itself, because there is no guarantee that you will film anything in the order of the narrative drive, so there's no linearity to it. And what I find interesting about that is that you have to make quick decisions on the context, and you have to react to what is in the immediate environment. And I guess, in a way, that is what I do. I do quite a lot of intuitive sort of reaction to what the immediate context seems, what the words on the page are, and then we hone it. The director will sort of say, okay, I like that bit of it, but can you do more of this? And I will take that up and incorporate it. So that's how I do it.
Just before we move on to a deep question, you mentioned you did a bit of screen work.
Yes.
Well, a lot of screen work.
No.
What kind of things have you done?
Various things, nothing particularly exciting, but I've done a number of feature films. I've done quite a lot of commercials. I've done TV, mainly documentaries and the rest of it. But it's interesting. Quite a lot of UK actors, I find, for some reason, seem to have a positive screen work, and I do quite a lot of it. But maybe that's just my face. It does not look. And there are lots of opportunities. I've been invited to do things for a lot of non-UK companies, and done a fair bit of screen work in places like Spain and Greece and what have you. So it's interesting.
Wow, yeah. All right then. What would you say for your character, or anyone? What is the moment that defines the play for you?
Well, it may be a deep question. What defines my character or defines the play?
Yeah, either.
Either. Well, I've long felt about my character, which I focused on. There is a particularly solid line where he talks about his dog, Candy's dog, will be shot later, and Candy's, sorry, spoilers, and Candy says, God, but he was a good sheepdog when he was young. And I think, to me, that unlocks this whole sort of notion of what he was when he was young, and now he was accompanied with his dog, and how everything has changed since he was young. And he was, as we all are, in his virility and youth, he maybe didn't appreciate during his virility and youth what it was like when he could go out, when he could romance people, when he was good looking, when he had all his faculties, when he was able to use his body properly, when he did things physically as easily as, no thought at all. And that, to me, sort of sums him up. I think you've got that thing, as I say, I'm not elderly, but that thing that he was once very capable and now no longer is, and that is an interesting thing to explore. So,
Right, defines my character. I think there's a moment where I see what Lenny's capable of, but I see I see what he's capable of physically,
Yeah.
but I see the heartbeat behind it and the mentality behind it is something that's in conflict with that. And I think that moment for me, I would say that's the moment in the play for Slim. And in terms of the play, I feel like there's a moment of acceptance when they're all just in the bunkhouse where there's just for a second there's some peace among everybody in the play. I don't know if it defines it, but there's just we get very few moments in this play where anybody has sort of found something or is settled, which is all anybody in this play is looking for. They're looking for this. They're chasing the dream, the American dream, and unfortunately, it's very hard to come by. But there are a couple of moments where there's just very brief, fleeting moments of peace and silence. And I love silence on stage.
Yeah.
And that's a moment for me. Yeah.
Yeah. More powerful than like.
Completely agree. We seem to be very scared of it, and when we shouldn't be. It's incredibly powerful. Yeah.
I know you're quite early into the process, but what has been your most enjoyable part so far?
That's interesting. I like the process of coming together to create a story that an audience can appreciate. I like all the coming together of the different voices, the different techniques, and the way we bring it in effect to life. And that has always been my big thing. I think theatre is a bit of a transient medium, as I was saying the other night. You can't ever kind of see yourself. You never know kind of how it came across to an audience. And one thing I quite like about screen is that you can actually watch it.
Yeah.
And you can go at times, oh, that was great. No, that was rubbish.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And with theatre, you can never know. You just have to go with what you're feeling, I think. But I like seeing it all come together. I like that we're starting with words on a page, and you initially see it, and you may think, oh, that's quite interesting, but it doesn't live in quite the same way, and eventually it will be real, and it will
Yeah.
be a story, I think. So that's definitely what I like.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds.
Favourite moment? Meeting this chap, getting to run lines with this guy. Real pleasure. And it's just, for me, it's, just being on stage in front of a live audience. It's just live theatre. It's the best in the world. It's no, I cannot. We were in here last night watching the show, and we were both sizing up the stage, thinking, I can't wait to get up there. Just cannot wait to get up there and put this in front of a live audience. Yeah, for me, that's the best thing.
Intimidating from this thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, very different when we get up there, eh? Yeah. Yeah.
Do you still get? I don't know how many times you've done something like this, but do you still get nervous? I'd imagine you do.
Yeah.
Still
Oh
nervous,
yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. But it's like it's nerves tingled, like mixed in with absolute adrenaline.
Yeah.
And a buzz. I did a play 2 years ago, which was a two-hander in real time for an hour and 40 minutes non-stop. You didn't come off stage until the end.
Wow.
Just two people bouncing off each other. And I came off stage afterwards, and I cried my eyes out because I was so high off it.
Yeah.
But I was terrified before going on stage. But it's a good nerves. It's a nice nerves because it's the adrenaline. And when you're up there and when you're actually, if you ever get a second to go, wow, this is actually happening. It's an amazing thing. So yes, I do. I think you do. I don't think that ever goes away, does it?
No, although I have perhaps a big interesting story for aspiring actors, which is I think one of the things I was always afraid of when I was young is, oh my God, you're gonna forget your lines. And I did do it once in a show when we had very little preparation time. And what I realised after that, because I was prompting the rest of it, is it's not the end of the world. You should always carry on with it. You can still do a great performance. It's not the end of the world. I think there is a lot of your nerves and your shock comes from, oh, it might go wrong, and then it goes wrong. There's nothing you can do about it. And you go, oh, all right, I dealt with it. And I think that's quite important because I think it is natural to go, oh, I want it to be 100%. I want it to be perfect. I want it. And there will always be, oh, I did the wrong footwork or I forgot this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. And then the other interesting thing I think about it is when you talk to an audience afterwards and you said, did you notice? They go, notice what?
They'll never
Never notice.
And we look after each other.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and we are so concerned about it. And I don't think the people who watch.
No. It's great to see the cast adapt around each other.
Yeah.
Just to like fix. Well, not fix. It's not. If it goes wrong, it doesn't mean it's gone wrong.
It's live theatre.
It's
That's the whole
live.
point.
That's
Yeah.
exactly.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all the questions. Thank you very much for coming in today.
Welcome.
It was nice to meet both of you. So I look forward to watching it.
Well,
Top man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.